our reasoning for and our purpose for when it comes to why we were created. So I have a big problem with reconciling the fact that Allah created us um, without any kind of prior consent, or at least I don't recall him asking me, I'm going to create you. So he's created me, he's giving me a free will, and the ability to use logic, reasoning, intellect to decide to follow his law, or to reject and do something else. And if we follow it, we get rewarded, and if we don't, we get punished. So that's I find that very problematic for me, that I've been placed here without any kind of prior, do you want to be here? He's just created me and he said, okay, you need to follow this. You have a free will. And if you reject it, or if anyone rejects it, they're going to hell. And those who accept and follow and worship and do it correctly, they'll go to heaven. So that I have a big problem with that. So I'd just like to kind of discuss that with you if possible.
Yep, the doctor is the best person to address you on that one.
Seeing
as though you seem so nice at the moment, I'll rough you up in a bit. But go on, doctor.
Welcome, Etta. Sorry, what? I don't understand your problem. Why do you think you should have been consented?
Well, I mean, we're created and we're put through this test. So this life is a test for hereafter. But I never asked to be tested. I don't want to be in this test.
So why? The question is, why is it that you should be asked?
That's a good question. But then, well, because I'm just, I guess I'm just fearful of possible consequences after death.
But that's not a reason for consent before life. So it's a good thing that you're fearful of the consequences after death. It just means that you're going to be very sincere and diligent in seeking out the truth to the best of your ability, and that's what's required from you. But that doesn't speak to the requiring consent in the beginning. That's more of a sort of a liberalist sort of, I need to be asked about everything that happens to me.
But why should I have been created? Sorry to interrupt, but why should I have been created? Because if I'd rather not have gone through this test, I'd rather not face an eternal torment. I'd rather just not have never been created. From that perspective.
And what is that?
What's what? Sorry.
This you're rathering about not wanting to have been this or that, or what is that? Does that hold any? Do you hold any sway on any creator because of how you feel?
Well, it does come down to whether does a creator like this really exist? That if he's placed me here, he's putting me through this test without any kind of my input, or regardless of how I feel, or regardless of my actions, or how I will reach certain conclusions, then he will then be the ultimate judge and decider. And then regardless of what I say to him or whatever I've decided.
So the way you're talking about this test is maybe a little bit problematic. So I would say to you, just very straightforwardly, your consent is not required by the creator to create you or the sun or the universe, or it's not required. The question is, have I been given the faculties that are necessary to carry out my purpose? And the simple answer, and there's a hadith from the Prophet, peace be upon him, where he said that the pen is lifted from either three groups of people who are not judged. The sleeper until he awakens, the child until he reaches the age of understanding, and the one who is not able to use his rationality. So you're given all of the faculties that's required for you to reach the conclusion that you can reach, and you're given a faculty or a capacity of making a choice, so you have free will, and then it's a decision that you can come to. Now there are consequences from that, but those consequences, it's not like if I threw you off a cliff and said you must fly, but gave you no wings, that would be an unjust thing. But to give you, if I put you in a plane and said, fly across the sea, that's a reasonable thing because you're in a plane and I've given the instructions and I've taught you. So this is a straightforward, you have the faculties and the capacity to do the test. You're created because a creator can choose to create you, and he did. Your consent is not required for this. And on top of that, the creator has sent guidance to show you the way. Hence, you're in this conversation, you're having this discussion.
So it seems a little, sorry to interrupt, Dr. Imran, but it
No
does
problem.
seem a little bit as though this is being forced upon me. So this test, Allah's just created me and saying, here's the
No,
test.
so that doesn't apply. You don't. When you make the cake, do you consent the cake? Do you consent the ingredients before you make the cake?
Do I consent the ingredients before I make the cake? Well, what does that mean? Sorry, I don't know.
That means because you're in the process of creating something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ask that thing for consent for anything that you create? iPhone.
I mean, the iPhone doesn't have, but the iPhone can't. But the iPhone's not alive. It's not
AI robot. Whatever do you seek consent for anything that you create?
Well, I would consider the kind of implications it would have on the thing I created. So if I create a robot with free will and it turns around to me and says, "Well, why did you create me?" I think I'll find that a bit problematic. I would say to him, "Well, for you to do this." Then if he would argue with me, I'd probably then be prepared to try and, I would expect I would have solid reasoning to be able to answer his question.
Nessa, do you have children?
No.
Do you plan to have children?
I'm not sure.
Do you blame your parents for having you, for you not consenting?
No.
Okay. So, what is the issue then? I'm struggling. I'm struggling to grasp your problem.
Yeah, I mean, but from the perspective of my parents creating me, I mean that wouldn't have been possible without God doing it. So, I mean, according to.
Do you believe in God?
I do not.
No, I know, because you're Buddhist, yeah.
Well, I'm agnostic. Agnostic on the issue of God, but
okay,
yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. Sorry to interrupt, Doctor. Can I just?
No problem. Yes.
I'll just listen. Right. So this idea of consent. How do you know you didn't consent?
Well, I don't. I'm assuming I didn't.
Why are you assuming that?
I don't have any prime memory of God asking me before I was created or before I was born.
Do you have memory when you was in the womb?
No, I do not.
Well, if you don't have memories of the womb, how are you going to have memories of before the womb?
Okay, so I guess my next question would be then, did Allah ask me before I was created in this world if I wanted to be here?
I believe he did.
He did?
I believe he asked us, will we worship? Will we obey? What's the actual wording? Sorry, I don't want to paraphrase it.
So there is a mention of the fact that all of the human beings that are going to be created were taken from Adam, and they were made to bear witness that Allah is their creator. And this is a prior to Earth time or life or phase, however you want to think about it.
Prior to the womb.
Yeah. Now, this is not a. I mean, it's interesting. It's a consent. It's an acknowledgement of the, and this is where our inner understanding that there is a creator naturally comes from. I mean, there's lots of evidence for the fact that children automatically assume agency for things that are happening in the physical world, and this is where this sort of comes from. We call it the fitra. Now, the question is really about consent, and I would go back to that. I would say that your consent is not required, although there was this explanation. So this is another faculty that's given within you to seek the creator, and there's guidance that comes to you. And the idea of forcing something you create is a nonsensical idea. I mean, I don't. The fact that you have free will itself is not a force. You're free to do whatever you want to do. You don't want to believe, no problem. But there, like you said, there are consequences of the conclusions and the outcome that you come to. You seem to be aware of that. Yeah,
at this
please.
Point, can I just quote the Quran? Because Thingy asks in the chat, our mate April, our good friend of the show, she says, is that backed up by scripture? So in the Quran, in chapter 7, verse 172, and remember when your Lord brought forth from the loins of the children of Adam their descendants and had them testify regarding themselves. Allah asked, am I not your Lord? They replied, yes, you are. We testify. He cautioned, now you have no right to say on Judgment Day, we were not aware of this. So the Quran, yes, it is supported by scripture, the idea that we know our purpose. But the problem is, we lose it through our life. So as the doctor was alluding that, children, when babies, when they're born, they have this natural, obviously we believe they have natural instincts and such, which are given to them by God. When it comes to faculty, they have this idea of something greater. And then what happens during life, it gets washed away. It gets infiltrated. It gets corrupted. We call it fitra. Yeah. So fitra is our natural disposition to God. Yeah. And the fitra gets clouded throughout our lives, through education, through indoctrinations, through all sorts of things, through experiences, bad experiences. So someone's grandma dies or someone's abused by somebody and they blame God for it. Why didn't God save me? And then they use this as an excuse and it starts clouding up their fitra. So the doctor's right. Why should you consent? Yeah, you're just creation. Yeah, but at the same time, Allah says in the Quran, just to confirm for our mate April, that Allah's told us. So just because you can't remember that doing it, well, you don't remember the womb, and this is prior to the womb. All right.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's a very good answer. I do understand that. I do know about fitra, as it's called. That state of purity, and then becoming impure later on. So yeah, it is a good point. But then I guess it goes back to the mind of the creator and him having this prior knowledge of his creation, kind of using their intellect.
What it should lead you to, if this is such a concern of yours, why should I believe what the Quran says? That's what it should lead you to.
It's a good point, Hamza. Very good point. And I draw up these questions, and I mean, this is one of the reasons I'm a Buddhist, is because I do try to find, I do look at religions and I use a trial and error. I put them to a test, and then things that I can't find, I can't see a logical reasoning or rationale, or things that I can't reconcile after.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
Yes.
Do you believe you can be reincarnated as an animal?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe animals can be reincarnated as humans?
Yes.
And what does an animal have to do in its life to be reincarnated as a human?
Just live by its nature.
So then all animals become humans, is that what you're saying?
Eventually they will, yes. Or they will be promoted to a higher form of life.
Why promoted? So you're saying if a fox goes around killing chickens and stuff, then it's done a good job?
Well, a fox has to do that because it's its instinct.
Yeah, I agree. So has it been a good fox?
Well, I mean, good or bad, but our humans we come up with our own terms and we decide what's good and bad. But in terms of what it needs to do, we can say, yes, it's fine what it's doing.
So if a fox feels sorry for the chickens and doesn't eat the chickens, can it still be promoted? Or is it not? Has it been a bad fox?
I don't think that's possible, is it?
Well, that would mean all foxes become humans then.
Pardon?
You believe all foxes become humans when they die?
Well, not necessarily humans, but they will be promoted to, they will kind of go on to a higher life. So we don't as Buddhists, we do believe in the unseen, and we believe in other, realms of existence where other beings exist, like there are jinns in Islam. We also believe in, other realms of existence where there are, other beings that live there. So the animals are below humans. So we believe that they can, or they will be reincarnated into higher forms. So that period where they're living as an animal, that will be temporary. They will, once they live through that, and possibly we've all been there, we've all lived as animals. Once we've kind of been through that, we'll then.
Do we get a choice?
Do we get a choice? No, not
not?
that I'm aware of.
That's not fair. Why? I didn't consent.
But then we're not being judged by anyone. I mean, reincarnation. Because this is the Buddhist teachings.
No, but Meta, you're describing a punishment and a reward system, and at the same time, you're.
Yes. That's a good back.
The point was so salient. Sorry, Dr. Imran, go ahead. Forgive me.
No, please.
No, the point is, Meta, right? If you say a person lives a good or a bad life, that infers in a moral judgment. And to have a moral judgment, you must have a judge. And to say that a fox, lives by its instincts, who judges what is instinctual to a fox or not? And so there must be a moral, what do you call it, a moral authority that determines that.
Who programmed the fox?
That's a very
Yeah.
good point, Ijaz. And just to address that, we don't have a judge, but we have the laws, or we have the morality code of conduct. So
But
no
who
one's
created
judging
that?
who created
Those laws.
those
Come
laws.
from a lawgiver. Who is the lawgiver?
Well, these are basically, as Buddhists, we believe that this is the natural kind of law and order of the universe and how everything should be. So
But we're not speaking about laws of gravity or the laws of biology. These are moral laws. You're speaking of something that is metaphysical, not something which is actually physical.
yeah, that's
So
true.
who gives these laws?
That's a good
Islam has
question.
an answer.
Yeah, that's coming back to kind of where does everything come from, and Buddhism doesn't really there is an answer to that, but Buddhism doesn't give us the answer because Buddha
That-
says that it's not
But Meta,
it's
that's
fruitless
the
to
point.
the path.
Meta, that's the point. Islam
well-
answers this question. Do you accept that Islam answers this question?
It does, yes. It says it comes from Allah.
And it gives you a moral basis to accept the law given and the laws and the lawgiver. It makes sense. In philosophy, this is called the principle of sufficient reasoning, that we must have reasonable bases to believe in what we believe. So far, would you say that our belief system is coherent? Coherent means
Yes.
everything comes together like a hand in a glove. Then beautiful, brother. But
Absolutely.
from what you've described, Buddhism, with no disrespect intended, it does not seem coherent to me. And it lacks these necessary sufficient reasoning needed to arrive at the conclusions you've arrived at. I think Islam fills that void, and I invite you to it. I've got to do my laundry, guys, but I am listening.
Can I just quickly
promise.
I'll
Yes.
just quickly respond? I would say that I would agree that Islam is coherent in that respect, that it does have a judge, but I don't necessarily think that without a judge that makes Buddhism incoherent. That's
But-
what I would
but-
consider.
It does by default.
Because
Oh,
you
I
need a
just-
lawgiver to give the love. To give the law, not the
Oh,
love.
we don't disagree.
oh.
We don't disagree that there isn't that it isn't possible that it comes from a source. Absolutely. I mean, we do believe in we do believe in sources. of
Okay,
things,
can I just put it in a nutshell?
but we
for
just
you?
don't know what that is.
Can I
Yeah,
put
go
it in a
ahead,
nutshell
Hamza.
for you? You
I'm
believe
listening.
as a Buddhist that we reincarnate into animals and animals reincarnate into humans, yes?
Yes.
Okay, the creator of the universe says you're wrong.
I mean, but that's your belief, Hamza. I don't.
No, right,
I don't
right.
hold
So
the
that's-
same belief, do I?
Right. So that's my belief, and you have your belief. How do we determine who's got the correct belief?
Oh well, we have to evaluate it, don't we?
Let's
But
evaluate
then,
it.
but then I don't
Why
believe.
do you believe we reincarnate from animals?
But hold on. But I don't believe that there's an absolute definitive empirical way to come to truth. I believe that that religion at the moment, and it has been for thousands of years, that it's always been a belief-based system. We aren't able to solidly prove
Meta,
that something is
Meta,
true.
have you been listening to the whole stream?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, before we discover Mount Everest, what was the highest mountain in the world?
It was Everest.
Right. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you subjectively believe. Even though you don't know of something, it doesn't change the reality of a thing. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
so there
right.
is an absolute truth, but
Right.
what I'm
so
saying
there is
is
an absolute, okay, beautiful. So there is an absolute truth.
Mhm.
You Buddhists and we Muslims cannot both have the absolute truth. Is that fair?
Yes, that's fair.
Right. So now we have to determine why you believe what you believe is true.
Yes, that is true, but I don't think we can. But what I'm saying is, I don't think we can come to
Well,
an
you weren't
objective
born
empirical-
believing this, were you? Were you born believing that you were reincarnated from an animal?
No.
No, it was
Well,
taught to
we
you,
don't
or you
have
read
the
it,
memory.
or someone inspired you into believing it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we don't have the memory, but there are kind of scientific studies that say that there are some children who do have the ability to possess, and there are stories of some people who are able to remember. But that's another story. But yeah, I don't personally
Sorry, say that again.
remember.
Say that again.
There have been scientific studies where small children are able to remember or recall prior lives or information about people who have lived before and
No,
who
that's
have died.
different. No. But that's a different thing, you see, because we have the explanation for that as well. I
What's
thought he was
the
going to tell to me there is scientific study where some little children have remembered when there used to be a rat or a fox.
Oh no, we're not as probably not. Well, I'm not sure about that, but as
You
humans,
don't remember scurrying in the dirt or slithering in holes or flying in the air. No, they just remember past events or people and such, isn't it?
yeah,
Right. So you know, jinn can explain that away, yeah?
can they?
Yeah, because we believe jinn. Everyone has a jinn. When you die, doesn't mean your jinn dies, and your jinn experiences what you experience. So I'll give you an example. I always use this example. You know, these like people go to these spiritualist churches, and the medium is there, and he says, "Oh, I've got Tom here," and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, have you been to these kind of churches? Have you seen them?
Which church?
Is that, you know, like when you go to like a seance, when you go there and people are in the audience and the medium's on the stage and he goes, "Oh, I've got a Tom in the room." Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. Right, let's imagine there was a geezer called Tom. Yeah, let's call him. I won't call him Tom. I'm going to call him Tom Jones or Tom Hardy. No, Tom Smith. Right, so there's Tom Smith, and Tom Smith used to sell flowers in the market in Romford. Yeah, just for example. Now, Tom Smith, when he was alive, he had a jinn companion. Yeah. And we've all got our jinn companion with us. And that jinn companion will experience everything Tom experiences. Goes where Tom goes, hears what Tom hears, experiences everything Tom experiences. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
This is from our worldview.
Yep.
Tom dies. Yeah?
Mm.
So now we go to this church. Now, Tom's got a daughter called Jenny. Yeah? Now, Jenny hears about this church where you can speak to people who've died and such. So she goes there and she's in the audience. Tom's jinn can come, speak to the jinn of the medium. "I'm Tom Smith from Romford. Used to sell flowers." And then the medium will go, "Oh, I've got a Tom Smith. Tom Smith, does Tom Smith mean anything to anybody? And he used to sell flowers." Now Jenny's thinking, "Whoa, flipping heck, that's my dad." Yeah. But it's not her dad. Yeah. And then it goes on saying, "Yeah, and he used to sell flowers in Romford." And I know Jenny's done. This is my dad. Yeah, I'm Jenny. I think that's my dad. "Oh, Jenny. Yeah, he's got a daughter called Jenny. Yeah, Jenny." Now Jenny will believe everything now that guy says. "Oh, don't worry, Tom's in a garden of roses, this, that, the other. He's waiting for you. He's with your grandma," and all this kind of stuff, right? Jenny now becomes a disbeliever in heaven, hellfire, any teachings of any religion, because she's had a personal experience that she believes. Yeah. So when you go to Jenny and say, "Look, there's a heaven and there's a hell, and you know, if you're not a believer or whatever, imagine a Muslim did this thing." Jenny's done. She's like, "Well, no, I've spoken to my dad. My dad's in a garden of roses. He wasn't a Muslim. He didn't believe this stuff. He's with my grandma in heaven and such and such." So this is how deception occurs. So the idea about knowing of past existence is not necessarily that person's knowing the past existence. It's that jinn companion knowing the past existence.
That's a very interesting, very interesting concept.
Yeah, I've always said this since I've been a Muslim. Islam answers everything. Honestly, the world of the unexplained is, we still believe in the ghaib, but we have kind of explanation. The ghaib is the unseen, yeah. But you know, the world of the unexplained and such, mashallah, Islam presents the answers in a coherent manner.
Meta, you said something interesting. You kept referring to empirical and, evidence, and you sort of, it's almost like you're looking for something that would be scientific for your belief system.
Not necessarily, because I believe, well, I mean, this science is, regularly updated when we make new discoveries. Like the world being round, for example. So I don't necessarily think that, science, scientific discovery will prove a religion to be true.
So how did you come to the conclusion that Buddhism is true?
So for that, I think I did touch upon that a little bit earlier, but what I did is I evaluated other religions, and I put them to a test. I look at their claim. I see if they answer the question. I see if they answer questions and how they answer it. What it teaches. I put that through a thought process. I do the same with Buddhism, and for the things that I can't reconcile, or I have issues with, or I can't understand after discussing with people after doing research, then
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you keep speaking of this test. What are the primary criteria that you have in this test?
So, I mean, I guess, but that's the thing. This can be challenged because of my understanding. But I guess first of all, it would need to be coherent.
But
It would need,
before you get there, like you're not going to evaluate every single teaching of all religions, right?
of
There must
course
be like
not.
a
Yeah.
there has got to be like a primary filter. Like you didn't just like start off with Wicca or with like black magic. You had a set group that you already identified that you wanted to look into, some of the major world religions,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So what was like the primary question for that initial filter?
The initial filter, I guess, the primary question is: could I see this being the truth? Could I see this being the truth? And could I believe in this as being the truth?
But that sounds so, like I don't mean to be like disrespectful or anything, Tom. Sorry, Meta. Well, he's become Tom, the guy that dies, is it now? Yeah. By the way, I fail to accept that Hamza randomly came up with that story. I believe this might be of something which occurred in his life. Now, Meta, here's the thing, right? When I evaluate religions, the first thing I ask is how many gods does it ask me to worship, and who is this type of god? Or who are these types of gods? Is this a wise god? Is it an evil god? Is it a all-knowing god? If this being that they're asking me to worship is inconsistent or incoherent, then why does it deserve my worship and does it justify my existence? Those are the primary questions I beg of myself before I look at any other religion. Popularity means nothing to me.
So,
But
can I just ask you, does that mean that you automatically rule out atheism because then atheism doesn't have a god?
yes, because
Yeah.
it's an incoherent philosophy. We must remember the principle of sufficient reason, and I must have a reasonable basis to believe what I believe. And I exist. The fact that I exist and other people exist, and we have individual thoughts, ideas, and experiences, speaks to a necessary existent being, which establishes these laws, rules, and regulations, and our very existence. So I can't accept atheism because it's not a specific worldview, nor a specific belief system. It is an idea, but it's an idea which contradicts the fact that we all exist coherently with each other.
Well, I think it does. I think, but that's the thing. It does. When you approach the religion from the question of how many gods is it asking me to worship? What is this god? I think that's a problem because I think that's a subjective method of approaching it, and I think that's because
but
different people
Matt,
have different approaches.
But Matt, I can show you this then. I'll tell you why I asked that question, right? How do we experience time? We experience time linearly, meaning we can't go backwards but only forwards. We live in the present. Do you agree? We can't jump. You and I, we can't jump. Is that correct?
That's right. Well, at the moment.
Okay. Right. At the moment, right? So time is a constant here. Secondly, Tom, do you exist as if one moment you had 2 heads and the next moment you had 10? Or have you always had 1 head? Why do I keep calling you Tom? I apologize.
Do I sound like Pastor Tom?
Tom,
you sound like
mate. Tom's
you
gins
sound-
with you, mate. Tom's gins with you.
You sound like a polite British man whose name is Tom and not a name has stuck to you, okay? So, Matter,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Do you experience time as if you have 1 head or 10 heads?
I don't quite understand the question, but I have one head.
Okay. Right. So you've always had 1 head. You don't experience time as if in one moment you had 3 legs and in the next moment you have 5, right? It's consistent and everyone around you has always observed you in the specific state that you are in. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so then we have a shared experience with individual witnesses that can lay witness to a coherent and a consistent experience of time. And so here is where the argument from God comes in. If there is more than one God, then it means that there is more than one sovereign. And if there's more than one sovereign who has the ability to create, then they equally have the ability to uncreate. And if that is the case, Matter, then you could, if there was more than one God, in one moment you can exist and in the other you would not. There would be fundamental chaos, but the state of the universe as we experience it is not chaotic, it's linear, and therefore this says to us that there must be a primary sovereign, not multiple sovereigns.
Sorry, Jazz. I think you raised a very good point actually, because this is actually one of the other issues I have with Islam personally is the idea of there being multiple gods. So what you mentioned, I do believe it's in the Quran as well that surely if there had been other gods, they would fight amongst each other. So
Exactly. Yes.
it's a good point, and this is actually one of the other issues, and
How is that an issue?
yeah, I'll just explain. This is what I was going to go into. So there's 2 things with this. First of all, why could it not be a possibility where there are multiple gods that do exist? However, they exist in complete coherence. So maybe there's one creator, there's another God that doesn't create, and they live, in harmony. They're not fighting. They're not at war. That's the first. Well, hold on. That's the first issue. The second issue. Can I just make the second one as well? It's very quick. The second one is, even if they did fight and there was chaos, is there necessarily a big problem in that? Because these exist. So, for example, there's a Greek pantheon where the gods are fighting all the time. But for the Greeks, it was okay for them. They still believed in it, and their gods were fighting. Zeus was always angry. He was, he frequently interacted with other gods. Blah blah blah. But the ancient Greeks, it was okay with it. So why is this necessarily a bad thing as well? So those are the two issues.
There's a simple answer here for this, right? There must always be one sovereign. There can never be two sovereigns with equal ability. And we noticed this from our shared experience as well. There is one prime minister, there's not two. There will always be one individual, one being, one person that has to have the final say. If you say that there are multiple gods and they come to an agreement among each other, then what you're saying is that one god has accepted he has more authority than the other. And that other god, even though they have equal ability, lacks the authority. But we believe that God is the maximally greatest being, the MGB. When we speak of Allah, we say He's Allah, the Most High. So there must be a supreme sovereign. A supreme sovereign does not deplete their own authority to appease others because they are the ultimate authority. That would be like, saying, I'll give an example here, right? That would be like Boris Johnson saying, you know what? I'm going to give up my ability to manage the affairs of the nation simply because I don't want to have this authority, even though I asked you to vote for me, and even though I wanted to assume this office, and even though I wanted to guide this nation, I have chosen to give up this authority. A sovereign ruler does not do that without making themselves weaker. And by definition, if you're sovereign, you can't be weak in authority. You must be ultimate in authority. So it goes on to the very principal ideas that we must believe in. So Islam answers this absolutely clearly. And in the pantheon of the Greek gods, let's not forget here that Zeus was the ultimate power. There was not a polytheistic, but rather henotheistic system where he had the ability to both create and destroy gods. So even within that system, there was a primary power and agent. I am doing laundry. It's not for the entirety of Canada. It's that I'm disabled, so it takes time for me to fold things and I can't use my hands as best as I want to. But I am listening, I promise you. Guys, please take it up from here because I'm a little bit tired. Do forgive me, inshallah. And Meta, you're
I
not
just wanted to
wrong,
add a little bit more meat to the bone, if you don't mind, Meta, just before you answer.
Sure, yeah. Again, I think there's other people waiting, so obviously I don't want to take.
No, there's only Pastor Jason Burns.
Okay.
All right, we'll bring him on in a minute. Don't worry. We'll have you on again. And what I'd like to do with you, Meta, though, to be honest with you, I'd like to bring you onto our stream on Thursday called The Perfect Storm, and I'd like you to come and present Buddhism as a worldview.
That's going to be where everyone's throwing things at me, isn't it?
Well, no, that's where we're going to just examine what Buddhism is.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've seen The Perfect Storm. It does get a little bit heated.
No, The Perfect Storm's all right. When it's not as rough.
Is it?
It's not the original.
Okay.
Perfect Storm is nice. Perfect Storm, all it's going to do is you won't ask us questions about what we believe. Because we never had a Buddhist before. Yeah, and not especially one as nice as you. And so we want to know. We want to know what Buddhists believe and why. Yeah, who Buddha was and what brought you to this conclusion. Going back to your God thing. So from an atheist standpoint, you see, the idea that there's more than one God wouldn't even come into my mind. Yeah. So from my point of view, this universe.
Why is that, Hamza? Sorry.
Because this universe needs a creator, yeah?
Well, it needs a cause, yeah.
It needs an originator. Okay. It doesn't need more than one originator. It just needs one originator, yeah? Only one necessary being needs to exist. So if you start saying things like, oh, there's 5 gods, yeah? Or 2 gods, or 3 gods. Mm-hmm. For me, I would just apply Occam's razor. Don't really need that. Yeah, I just need a creator.
You don't need. Yeah, I agree. You don't need.
Yeah, so why would I complicate matters unless it was demonstrated to me that there was other gods? Yeah. So I've come to the conclusion that before I was a Muslim, I've been a Muslim now 20 years. Prior to that, I was an atheist. Yeah. Then I became a agnostic. Then I became a deist. Then I became a theist. Very quickly, by the way. Well, it didn't take long to switch from agnostic to deist to theist. It went very, very quick. But the point is this. So I come to the conclusion there must be a creator, something that's caused everything to exist. Yeah. And for me, that creator must possess certain qualities. When I looked at the people claiming to have connection to that creator, now Buddhists are not one of them. Yeah, they have no connection to a creator. Buddha didn't claim divine inspiration or anything like that. But we have men on this earth who claimed in history to be messengers.
Yeah.
So if I want to know about that creator, I can only know what that creator reveals about itself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do then, we look for people who make that claim that they're messengers. We look at their claim, we test their claim, and we conclude that, okay, I believe this guy's telling the truth. This guy is who he claims to be. He is a messenger indeed of the creator. And that creator has told us he's one. He has no partners. He is sovereign. There's no one equal to him. That's it. Now, if you want to posit the idea that there's more than one, bring it. Bring your messenger, bring your proofs, bring your books, bring whatever you want to bring. Yeah, don't bring me Hinduism and monkey armies and stuff like that. Forget that. Yeah, and you Buddhists are a derivation from that. Yeah, so you've come out of that. Yeah.
Well,
so
yeah. I mean,
you Buddhists don't even believe in Hinduism's true. Yeah, you just.
Well, we are kind of similar to how Islam and Christianity are. I think a little bit. We believe
you've got no God.
No. But I'm just comparing. I mean, just how Islam and Christianity kind of are similar. Hinduism and Buddhism are also similar, but they are different. So just as a comparison, the two, Islam and Christianity compared to Hindu and Buddhism, we are in that sense. Do you understand? Islam and Christianity are similar in the sense that they have similar teachings.
Christianity and Islam are polar opposites. They're not similar. They teach
in terms of the prophets.
They teach completely different things.
Yeah, they do, but they're also similar in some senses. Yeah,
so
yeah.
Okay, sure. We don't say Islam came out of Christianity, but we can say Buddhism did come out of Hinduism.
Well, I wouldn't say that. No,
well, we'll see in the perfect storm, isn't it?
I can't agree. I'll be on the perfect storm, but no, we didn't come out. No, because we believe Buddhism has been around since the time immemorial. So we not necessarily we came out of Hinduism.
I just want to go back to another thing about the Greeks as well, and Zeus and this.
Yeah, go on. Sure.
Do they still believe that?
The Greek pantheon? No, I think that was an ancient religion. I guess it's no longer practiced.
No. Okay, it's not. Why not?
Oh, because new religions came along and dominated, like Christianity, for example.
No,
over Greek.
The point is, when you examined what Greeks, I mean, I think Erythro's dilemma kind of mashed up that kind of process, because who were the gods to tell us what's right and wrong when they're acting in such a buttress manner?
I mean, people still do believe in the Greek pantheon. It's just not as mainstream.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, right. I used to have a guy, right, on my market, one of the inspectors. Yeah, he was a Viking. Right, he used to have his beard plaited and walk around, strutting around with this kind of pagan symbol on, acting like a Viking. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And after I finished with him, right, the plaited beard had gone, the pagan symbol had gone. It was a load of rubbish, wasn't it? I said it was. It just sounded romantic. For Odin, this, that, mighty warrior. It's nonsense. Yeah, and this is the reality. You can only have one truth. So we want to examine Buddhism. And we're giving you a platform to put Buddhism out there to the people.
I don't need to do that, Hamza, because we believe that people will eventually come to the truth at some point.
Well, if we don't know about it, if we're not aware of it, how would we?
Through subsequent birth. So we also believe that.
I don't believe that nonsense.
Oh no, it's not nonsense. It's as much nonsense as eternal heaven and hell.
It's utter nonsense.
Well, so is eternal heaven and hell, though, isn't it? I mean, what makes reincarnation more nonsensical compared to the notion of heaven, eternal heaven and hell? That's my question to you.
So what we'll do is this: you believe what you believe, bring it to the table, right? And then we'll give you the opposite as well. So we'll challenge you, and you can challenge us. No problem. And we'll
Thank you for the invitation.
If I can just give you something to think about, so that when you do come, you can try and think about this. And maybe have an answer for it. So one of the issues with the idea of reincarnation and karma and not having access to previous knowledge, i.e. you're being punished without knowing the crime, because this life is a consequence of the things that you may or may not have done in your previous life. You don't have any memories of your previous life on the whole. You say that there are exceptions to the rule, but the rule is you're not aware of what's transpired prior, but you're bearing the consequences of them in this life. Then that's the definition of injustice, i.e. that you're being punished without knowing your crime. So this is the same as taking somebody and imprisoning them without giving them either a charge or a trial or a right of reply. You just
No, Dr. Imran, I could just respond and I can say the way I see it, or from our perspective, it's almost as though you have the criminal who's committed the crime and they're saying, well, no, I don't remember this. I didn't do this. Everyone else knows they did it. And they say, oh, no, you've done this. But they say, no, I don't remember. It's my past life. I don't remember it at all. But they've still done it. Should they be punished just because they can't remember?
No, so this is the thing. You're talking about a system of punishment and reward. There is no charge being given. You're never charged with your crime because you don't ever know what your crime is, and the reward or punishment becomes really arbitrary in your life because there's never going to be a rehabilitative process or a process where you learn from this. Now,
we do in this life as well.
What you're saying is that if you take somebody who has committed the crime and then they lose all of their memory of that and they're not that individual anymore, is it okay to punish them from what's gone before? Now, there are people who have become insane or etc., and there is the question about, is this person fit to stand trial? So these questions do arise. Now, what the problem is still the same problem, because you don't have that scenario at all in every single case, bar the exceptions, which is the exceptions prove the rule. You are bearing the consequences of a life you have no idea about what you did in the past. So there's no. This is, and I repeat, this is inherently unjust. You are bearing the punishment for a crime you don't know anything about.
Dr. Imran, karma does not only apply to. I think what you're doing is you're only considering it in the sense of across multiple lifetimes, but we don't see life as just one discrete interval. So, for example, karma also takes its course in this lifetime as well as subsequent lifetimes. So, for example, it could just be for so you see someone in the street who's homeless and you give them some money. The karmic reward for that could then be saying thank you or nodding their head. So it's not necessarily just something where it's across multiple lifetimes, therefore it's unjust. It's always taking its course.
What did you learn in your last life?
So what did I learn? I can't remember, Hamza. I don't have memory of my last life. How do I learn? I don't know what I was in my previous incarnations.
No, but what did you learn in your last life that you've brought into this life?
What did I learn?
Yeah.
I don't know, Hamza. I can't remember.
So how do you know you learn anything?
I don't.
I thought you said that's how you move on. You come back and with the new knowledge or something.
No, not with the new knowledge. With your karmic rewards or consequences.
How do you know that your karmic rewards and consequences are just?
Because we have the moral system that's given to us by the Buddha, and it's in the Dharma. So we have our code of morality, and we know that if we follow those, and it's, for example, similar to other religions.
So how do you know you follow them? How do you know that you've followed them or not? Because it's the same. So what you're saying, what you gave the previous response was, actually you might get a smile back for doing something good, or in this life as well there may be a consequence, but the issue is still across lifetimes.
It's just cause and effect across multiple lifetimes, basically.
So this is what you're saying. So if this is just cause and effect, then cause and effect is an example of a material thing that has no moral issues with it. It's just a mechanism. And if cause and effect is just a mechanism, then it has no moral validity.
It's cause and effect but we do have the moral standards by which it adheres to.
Yeah.
So then again, you're positing.
I'm trying to understand this. If a baby's born blind, is it being punished for a past life?
No, not necessarily. So it could be. So, for example, karma does play a consequence, but there are also other things as well. Like we know, for example, there's chance, right? There's chance. There's genetics. There's a genetic makeup of human beings. So karma plays a part. How do we know
if it's accidental or deliberate?
Oh, we don't. That's why we can't judge. That's why we can't look at a baby and say, "Oh, that baby deserved it."
Who decides that the baby's born that way?
No one decides, Hamza. It's a natural process. If
this baby in his prior life, I don't know, was Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
And it's coming to this life blind.
Yeah.
Who makes the baby blind?
No one. It's a natural process, right? So, for example, it's like saying, if I study hard, and I pass the exam, who made me pass the exam? You studied hard for it.
Well, you did.
Exactly. So it's the same thing. So
Right.
But
No,
but
we're
you're,
talking.
but
We're
in
not
this
talking about passing an
exam,
exam here. We're talking about molding a soul or a being and giving it this deficiency. Who give it the deficiency? See, I'm trying to understand because I know
it's
I can see
natural.
it's
So
all
it just,
leading back
just
to.
occurred.
See what's happening. What I can see, and I'm pretty sure this will happen on the Perfect Storm if you're brave enough to come on, is it's all leading back to this Buddha as some kind of objective morality.
No, not the Buddha. The Buddha, it doesn't. He reveals it to us, but he doesn't make it up.
And
It's
where
not
does he
him
reveal
that-
it from?
It's in the fabric of the creation. It just remains to be discovered. So he discovered it
How
he
did he discover it?
through practice, through meditation, through practice, by what we're encouraged to do, so that we could be like him, and so that we can realize it for ourselves.
What did he discover though?
He discovered the ultimate truth of all things.
42.
Sorry?
Sorry, no, you've not read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
You just killed me. The answer to everything is 42.
Oh yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
So
No,
this is the thing. It's a quite a vague statement.
Yeah, we're moving into Perfect Storm territory now.
Yeah,
because
we are.
I want to
Okay.
peel the layers off this Buddhism because I'm telling you, you've got no more basis as a Christian does.
It's
just a matter
interesting
of
because
peeling away
you're
the layers.
positing a moral system without a mind behind the universe,
Yeah,
That's right.
and
That's right.
that's really not intuitive at all, and it goes against anything that we understand in terms of morality. So for a moral choice to be made, it requires there to be a mind and free will, and for there to be a moral system in place, it can't just be particles interacting to bring about that, because that's nonsense. It doesn't make any sense in any way whatsoever that I can think of. Maybe you can, maybe. And so that would be an interesting conversation to have with you.
we can give you a month if you like, Meta, to prepare for the Perfect Storm. No problem.
Oh, it's okay, Hamza. No, if I do find the time, I'd be happy to come on. But
All right, cool.
I think, I'm not sure if
It would be pretty
I'm just
similar
not
to
sure
the
I'll be cut out
conversation
for
we're
it.
having now.
I'm just not sure I'll be cut out for it, basically.
No, you will be. You will be. You're living your life by this standard. It should be simple.
Well,
I'm going to do my research on Buddhism as well. You see.
Sure. I mean, Hamza, I just did come on to kind of, just ask about Islam, and I'm not here to kind of, make people kind of convert to Buddhism. I do believe that if people are genuinely interested and they want to learn religion, that they will eventually come to the ultimate truth. If not in this lifetime, then in another lifetime. So I don't need to.
Wait,
I don't
Meta,
need
do
to
you know what the
convert
problem is?
people.
Do you know what the
Yeah, go
problem
on.
is? You're asking people to come to a belief system that rejects the existence of a creator.
It doesn't reject. It
Of course
just
it does.
no, it doesn't reject. It just says that it's not.
Well, if there's a
no.
creator, well, wait. So, if there's a creator, who knows best, the creator or Buddha?
Well, I mean, if the Buddha has, it's like asking if who knows best, Muhammad or Allah,
Allah.
right? Well, but anything Muhammad says, it's pure truth, is it not?
From Allah, yes.
Yeah, but Muhammad can't ever say anything wrong. So whatever the Buddha reveals, he it's
But
the
Buddha
same.
doesn't have
He
that
doesn't say anything
connection.
wrong.
But Buddha doesn't have a connection to the creator.
Exactly. He doesn't need. Well, he does. He does. He
doesn't.
He knows the
No,
ultimate.
no.
He knows the ultimate truth. And
Where
if
does Buddha claim he has a connection to the creator?
Well, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
He doesn't need to, because we
Well,
believe he has the ultimate truth.
you can't make a claim about Buddha that he himself didn't make.
Well, he revealed the truth to us.
No.
That's what-
He had no connection to a creator, so you
That's
can't say
right.
he did.
Just because he never said he did doesn't mean he didn't.
No, but if this is the thing now, you're talking about ultimate truth.
It's
Why
because
would he,
someone
why
did
would he
ask
hide
him.
something from you?
No,
if he
Hamza,
knew?
someone and Dr. Imran, people did ask him, and it's in the Buddhist. People went to him and said, does God exist? Tell us about God. He didn't answer.
Do you believe
And
Buddha
there's
was all-knowing?
Yes, yeah, he did know everything.
You know, past, present, and future?
He did.
Oh, come to the Perfect Storm, please. There's no way are you supporting that. There's no way. Absolutely no chance.
Oh, Hamza.
All right, we're going to let you go, Meta. Thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very
You've been really
much.
great. You've been a graceful guest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hamza, Dr. Imran, Ijaz. Really appreciated it, and I've learned things as well at Islam that I didn't know
Come
before.
to the Perfect Storm.
Please
we'll
do
see.
come again.
Pin
Thank
your
you,
colours
Doctor.
to the mast. Take care. Come to the arena. Woo!
No, I'll skip that. Bye bye.
Oh, Oh wow, that escalated, but it became all-knowing. Wow.
So it's really interesting because from going from don't believe in God to then giving divine attributes to a human being,
Making Buddha God.
it's
Making Buddha
interesting,
the
isn't
actual
it?
God.
Yeah.
That leap was like incredible. You know, if you say something like, did Buddha connect to God? The answer should be no, he was God.
Yeah.
That should be the answer.
Fascinating.
All right. So we got Josh and we got I got Josh here and we got Jason here. And I feel like bringing them both on.
Wasn't Jason here? I thought.
Jason was first.
Okay.
All right.
You can bring them both. I think it might be interesting to have that
Yeah.
conversation.
Well, let's see what Jason's got to say first, and see if we can get Josh to come on and refute Jason. Pastor Jason Burns, what's happening?
Hello, guys. I just want to ask a question. If that's okay.
You want to ask us a question? Go on.
It's from Galatians chapter 1. And Paul says in verse 8, but though we are an angel from heaven, preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. And I said before, so I say now again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that which you have received, let him be accursed. And I was just thinking that if we was on a desert island and we found a Bible and a Quran and we read the Quran and we read the Bible seems to teach that Jesus died on a cross for sin. And in Surah 4, 157, 158, it says he did not die on a cross. He didn't die. And so the question that I have is, if Christianity is true, then does that not mean that Muhammad is cursed for preaching a false gospel?
Yes.
If it's not true, then what does that mean? If Paul's not true, but if it is true, then does that not mean that Muhammad is a false prophet? And how do we, in a fair way, in an honest and fair way, arbitrate as to what is the truth in those two apparent contradictions? In the Quran, it's saying he did not die, and Paul is saying he did die, and it's serious. You're cursed if you don't preach that. So that's my question.
Beautiful question.
Can I answer?
If
I'm
knew Jazz would be creeping about.
Bro, hold up. If I'm on a desert island, right, and I have a book that tells me God died, and then I have a book that tells me God is Al-Hayy, the ever-living, I'm going to say, why do I need to know about some random place I've never been to where God dies? I know that God is living, full stop. But that's my decision. I could care less about what it goes into about preaching another message. If the very foundational idea behind it is incoherent, I don't need to go further into it. It's like saying to me, well, you know what, if we had the Bhagavad Gita and we had the Quran, if I like what the Bhagavad Gita says, I'll just adopt it, right? You're not going to go into the metaphysics behind the Bhagavad Gita, are you? So the very foundational question you ask is this reasonable? Can God die? The answer is no. Done. So, Jason, I honestly say, if you and I were stuck on a desert island, you would be a Muslim today. I'm still doing laundry.
Okay. I would also
Okay.
look at the two books, and I would look at the contradictions within them, and I would say to myself, this one with contradictions in can't be from God. And of course, the Bible contains clear contradiction. And it depends which Bible I found. Which Bible have I found? Have I found the Catholic Bible or the King James Bible or the NIV Bible? Am I believing the Father? There is three bear witnesses in heaven: the Father, Son, and these three are one. If I find the KJV, if I find the NIV, I'm not believing that thing. Which Bible have I found? But I'll be honest with you. Forget your desert island. Forget your books. Let's come down to one thing: who is Paul, and why should we believe what he said? Now, we've demonstrated numerous times he's taught contrary to what the disciples of Jesus taught. We've demonstrated this. Do you believe that?
I've listened to you, and I've been very disturbed what I was hearing. I wish I could have.
Good man. So in your disturbed,
I was very disturbed, but I have listened to your responses, and I think that I understand what you're saying.
Jason, at this point, I don't want to straw man you. I don't want you to act like you're behaving like all the other Christians behave. So I want to establish your position. Unlike what you did to me in the park with Bob, I'm going to establish your position, yeah? Because I don't want you to defend a position you may not hold. Okay. Do you believe that that Paul was teaching Jews they no longer need to keep the law? Do you believe that? Welcome, Hazel.
Well, that's a very difficult question. That's not an easy question to answer.
Yeah, I was teaching
in the
Jews,
book.
Steve. Okay, one second.
No.
What's difficult?
Can I answer? Can I answer?
Yeah.
You're asking me a question, and I can answer it, because Paul dealt with the law in, for example, in the book of Galatians, and he was talking about justification. When it comes to salvation, the law was not to be used to establish salvation; it was Christ. But when it came to a Jew wanting to be a Jew who was put their faith in Christ, then they could get circumcised. So so the doctrine of justification and how Paul saw the law there, and the doctrine of sanctification, how Paul saw the law there, it's not a simple issue. And
Okay.
But can I just say something? I've answered your question.
I'm asking a simple
I've answered your question.
No, you
I know,
didn't.
but
No, you didn't. You
I
danced
have.
around it.
I have.
I'm going to ask the question again.
No, but listen,
Please
because
answer my question.
you see,
Please answer my question.
you see, you're doing it.
Don't do it,
You're
Boris,
doing
on
it
me.